Good evening. Hello, everyone. We just decided to start now before everyone leaves and you have the right to go home. It has been a long day. My name is Mariam. I'm working for Médecins du Monde, Doctors of the World Germany in the International Programs Department, and also have the pleasure of working in a steering committee for the Humanitarian Congress, together with Nora, who is the Advocacy Project Manager at MSF and the coordinator for the Congress. And we have the pleasure of saying a few things for these closing remarks. By the way, the closing remarks are always debated. How shall we say, giving a big speech, a big wrap-up, whom do we invite? And we decided, like I said, you deserve to go home. You had 2 packed days, so no worries. We're going to make it sweet and short, just sharing a few reflections without going into detail, because that has been done by you, the audience, and the speakers.
Fantastic. Thanks very much for staying. We promise we will keep it short. We have been talking a lot about the climate crisis and the humanitarian consequences of the climate crisis, and many people have shared their experiences and have told us what to do and what our next steps are. We started with that on Thursday morning with Jennifer Morgan, and I just want to remind us of the 3 things, or one of the 3 things we should be doing. Maybe to start, no humanitarian actors don't have to be climate scientists. Yes, attribution is important, but there are people who can do that for us, and people who will help us, and people who we can trust. We can trust the science, it's there. What we do need to do is we need to integrate 1 to 4 degree scenarios into humanitarian planning. We need to speak about what we witness, which is the suffering of the people suffering the consequences of climate change. Not much different from what humanitarian actors are already doing. When we talk about the causes for human suffering in humanitarian action, we need to include climate change. I think particularly Jennifer in the opening keynote reminded us that the humanitarian community has a very strong voice and that it is needed right now, and that we need radical collaboration on this to tackle the climate crisis together.
Yeah, thank you. That is something I'm going definitely to take home from that Congress, besides a lot of food for thought and motivation and inspiration, but being even more alarmed than ever before about the urgency of the climate crisis and the humanitarian impacts, as you so well described just now. We have discussed a lot about adaptation, how we can improve humanitarian aid, something that we should always strive for, building alliances. And I wonder, and we cannot go definitely not into detail about that, but what do we might have to change in the humanitarian world when we seriously ask the question of systemic change, which might be necessary to win the fight.
Speaking about systemic changes, maybe just a quick anecdote. This is a conference, we speak about platforms and how to do them well. And when I started, I used to think the bigger the suit, the better the conference. We need big titles and big names for the program for people to come and, people to think that it's valuable, what we share. Turns out, and I've learned this over the last year, and I think these last 2 days show this very clearly, what we need is we don't need titles. I mean, sometimes it does happen that, great titles come with great people. But what we need is people who actually have to have something to say, people on the ground, people working in communities and with communities, and we need to listen to them. Thank you. I'm so proud of all the amazing women who've been speaking, and obviously all the amazing men as well. Thank you. Having said that, in the steering committee, and we discussed this a lot, and who to invite, who will speak, who will join the program, we try to have as diverse a speaker crowd as possible, and be inclusive, but we recognized that we are still far from being diverse and far from being inclusive. And I think it's important I don't want to, depress everyone, because, this has been a great 2 days. But I do think we need to recognize that we still have a long way to go. And I was really happy that so many people joined the Unconscious Bias workshop today, and so many people came to listen to the keynote on gender, because we do need to check our own privileges. and we do need to check our own biases and also work much, much harder to make this a diverse and inclusive platform. And also this, I think, and that's my last point on the reflection, I think this is a great start. I think everyone was very excited and inspiring speeches that we've heard. And this goes for climate action, for humanitarian action, for more inclusion and diversity. But this can only be a start. So, it's great that we're clapping and that we're excited, but this needs to be a starting point and this needs to be translated into concrete action. So remember that when you go home, when you start work on Monday again, that this is what we need to do. Thank you.
I would just briefly, I promise briefly, pick up on what you said and what has been also for me one of the greatest experience during the 2 days. The luxury to hear those inspiring stories from amazing people, from especially our keynote speakers. Those amazing personalities fighting for rights, for health of their community, against injustice, etc., etc. And I'm especially impressed because, fighting in a safe environment or go to demonstrations and being an activist is easy. But doing that while putting yourself at risk, risking your life, your health, being imprisoned, whatever, that is really bravery. That is really courage. It takes so much courage, and I'm really impressed by that. Not only impressed, I think it was motivating, inspiring to hear those stories, and very humbling, very, very humbling. And really, I take it as an appeal for all of us not to let them stand alone, but really stand together and fight together. Just a short side note on evaluation as feedback, as Nora just mentioned so well, that we are constantly working on improving, and we can only do that if we have your feedback, because it's not our Congress of the steering committee or the organizations, but ours, you all. So we need your feedback. Please give us 5 minutes of your time. You should have received an email or will shortly. And if you give us your feedback, we would highly appreciate it. And before I hand over to Nora for the very last part, I would also like to wish you a safe travel back home. Thank you for joining us. And like Nora, I also hope you enjoyed the Congress and that you take home a lot of information, a lot of discussion, a lot of food for thoughts, inspiration, and new contacts, because as we constantly heard during the 2 days, this is necessary, building new alliances, working together, and we hope that the Congress enabled you a little bit to network and build alliances, and you take home new friends or business cards. Thank you.
Okay, as you can probably imagine, there are a lot of people we want to thank. We realize everyone wants to go home. We want to go home, fine. But there are some people that we need to mention, so here's how we're going to do this. We're going to go through some people. You're going to save all the clapping and all the enthusiasm you have for all these people, which you should, till the very end, and then we give them all one big hand together, okay? So bear with me. First of all, we always say this event is run by a very small team, and it kind of is, but also kind of isn't, because the fact that this works is due to the 100 volunteers, and this is a literal 100 volunteers, who help us realize this over the last 2 days, from registration, over showing you where the rooms are, helping the speakers set up, all sorts of tasks that are done by our brilliant volunteers, and we could not have done this without them. There are so many people involved, and we're so grateful, and the fact that everything runs smoothly is thanks to them. We're also, keep it, good stuff. We're also...
They deserve it, but no, not yet.
We're also very grateful to our venue and our host, the Oranje Berlin, including their technical staff and the catering. We're very grateful to our live stream and Robert and his team, who helped us bring this event not only to Berlin, but also to many people. with access to internet. We're thankful for the subtitles. I don't know if you've realized we had live subtitling yesterday. We're working on having it on both days, but that was also a measure, to try and work towards more inclusion, to have people with hearing impairments be able to listen and join the conversation. We want to thank our comms team, and that goes together with the live stream, because for everyone who wasn't here but was following on Twitter and Facebook, there were so many conversations and videos and debates going on Twitter so that people who weren't in the room could join, and actually the hashtag was trending. So I imagine even people who weren't necessarily in this room or already in this community also got lots of this event, which I think is very exciting, and thanks to our brilliant comms colleagues. Thank you.
So a big thanks, of course, goes out to our brilliant speakers. They have been fantastic, some of them traveling a long way, and we really want to thank them for joining us, sharing their thoughts and discussing with us. It has really been amazing. And also, of course, we'd like to thank you all, the participants, attending this Congress. Without you, of course, there would be no Congress at all. So this is why we say it's all our Congress together. Thank you for being here, for discussing, and for asking challenging, critical, insightful questions. And thank you for improving this Congress. And sorry, just one thing. We thank the audience not only here, but of course also those who followed us online, who are in the field, in offices somewhere. That is really something important for us, that not everyone can come, and we are working constantly on enabling more people to join online, so the thanks goes out for our online audience as well, of course.
Up next, thank you. Up next is the steering committee. We meet roughly once a month for over a year to plan the program, plan the session, but also the nitty-gritty details of this event. So I would like to thank Manja, Henning, and Peter from the Berlin Chamber of Physicians, Sibylle and Christian from the German Red Cross, Philip from MSF, and of course Mariam from MDM, from Doctors of the World, sorry. Then there's a partner this year, and I don't know if someone from Greenpeace is still in the room. I hope so. If not, maybe they will hear me later. But this year was special because this year was the first time we had an official partner organization at the Humanitarian Congress Berlin. And it was not only that they supported us with speakers and great ideas, but they were there every step of the way, challenging us with questions, challenging our narrative on the climate crisis, and really being incredibly helpful. We learned so much from you. And also there, we hope that this was only a start of a collaboration, and by no means the end, so thank you for that. And then, last but not least, Sarah. Actually, everyone knows Sarah, because every single person in this room will have had emails from Sarah, because Sarah single-handedly, the 1,000, and this is also a literal 1,000 participants that joined this Congress. For those of you who didn't check her signature, Sarah is this year's Humanitarian Congress intern, and the best example where title doesn't match the person. It's not, this Congress obviously has lots of different facets, all of which Sarah was involved in. Apart from the participants and the management of that, there was also the Humanitarian Forum, and she was involved in helping many speakers come here today. On the side of that, she made sure this event is super sustainable, researched local grass printers so that our badges could be more sustainable, and made sure when I said, oh, you know what, it's fine, we're not going to find someone, found people in the depth of the internet and researched them so that we could have people from the ground join us, and spend hours and hours trying to contact people who are not on flashy websites and have contact details that we could easily find. You had my back every step of the way, and I'm eternally grateful to you for that. You are the perfect example for me to how women can lift each other up. Thank you, Sarah. You were amazing.
No, stop, no.
That's
Why
okay.
no? Nora,
okay.
You forgot
that's
someone.
a fair one. You get to clap for Sarah.
Yeah, but she forgot someone. She forgot herself, actually. Last but not least, Nora, it's you. Thank you for your great work.
Thank you.
Thank you.